So I want to talk today about something a little spicy and has the potential to even trigger some people when I first bring it up. And if that's you, that's totally okay. But we're going to go deep today. And I want to start off by asking you, what if everything that you know about awakening and spirituality is the very thing that is preventing you from recognizing what it is that these teachings are pointing to? And it's not because knowing is wrong. It's not wrong. There's nothing wrong about what I'm going to share. It's because knowing and knowledge has its limitations. Yeah, so we're going to talk about that today. So just like right off the bat, if you go into your direct experience right now, what is it that knows? You know? The mind might search for an answer, and it could say, oh, it's the mind, or it's me. I know. I'm the one that knows. Right. Okay. But what are you without that concept of me right now? I'm just going straight into it. What are you without the concept of me right now? Can you know that? Can you know what's here without this foundational concept of a me? And one of the issues that most humans, pretty much all of us, run into is this idea, this thing that we mistake knowing for reality. And this makes sense why we do it. There's nothing wrong with it again. But from a very young age, we are basically rewarded for knowing. You get more attention from your parents when you know the right thing. Definitely get more attention from your teachers, right? You do the tests and then you know something and then you get good grades. You get a pat on the head and then you go to college and it's the same thing. You got to have the right answer. You got to know. And then you get out of college and then you go into your interview and it's the same thing. You got to know. And then you get the job and then you got to impress your boss by knowing. Yeah? So it's all knowing. And we basically live in a world where everybody is hypnotized by narrative-based thinking, and we construct a reality from that orientation that rewards knowing, that rewards the intellect. People that are intelligent are typically more successful, right? And there's other things too, like if you take risks, if you're friendly, if you're hardworking. But really knowing and intelligence is one thing that's very much pedestalized, especially as a child. Like you got to get good grades, you got to get into a good school. That's what's really like rooted as a child, is this emphasis on knowing. And so we approach the spiritual path with that same mindset, that liberation is something that you know. And so we go into the path thinking that I have to have the right teacher or the right understanding, or I got to get the right insight. I got to hear it in a certain way. And so we listen to all these stories about how other people had these massive awakening experiences. And then we think, okay, I gotta know what it is that they're talking about. And that's the trap, and that's what I want to discuss today. I'm not saying that knowing is bad. We're just talking about the limitations, the inherent limitations. Because if you look at life, if you look at what percentage of reality is contained in thoughts, knowing, intellect, just in your direct experience right now, how much of it is thoughts? Very small percentage, right? 0.01%, maybe, probably even less, because the thoughts are just temporary sounds that are playing in our head that are there, but they're painting a picture of reality that isn't really there. It's just an imagination of what's there. And the issue is that we equate this knowing with some kind of ultimate truth, some kind of final realization. And we orient more to the thoughts and the stories that are being played out in the mind than the actual reality itself. So right now, in this very moment, what's here that doesn't require knowing? I did a session with a young girl a couple months ago, and I asked her that question. And her first response was, everything. Pretty much everything right now is here without effort. But the mind, it's like this kind of virus that wants to effort. And it efforts through knowing, it efforts in learning. And it's fine to explore ideas and concepts, but there's also a freedom that's here that's not dependent on a knowing, that's not dependent on something that you do with your mind. Because all words are just inherently made up. The mind thinks that it wants to know, that there's some knowing that will ultimately satisfy it, but it never gets there. It just wants to keep seeking, and even when it gets a knowing, it throws it away or it banks it. Okay, next YouTube video. Okay, next book. And I talk to people every day who are addicted to spiritual seeking, literally addicted, or they use it as a coping mechanism. But it's just this false reality of words that are making some promise about a future moment that's not happening right now. So the world of thoughts, it can only know objects, right? The function of the mind, inherent in the function of the mind, is positioned as a subject, object, right? There's just this assumption that there's this I that knows something. This I that takes credit for something. So there's this inherent experience of a separation. This imaginary assumption that there's some psychological me character. But the immediate direct experience of life does not require that dynamic. It does not require the interface of thought. Because thoughts and words are labels, they're interpretations of what is. They're not the actual thing. They're useful tools. I love words, I love speaking, but we're just getting clear that the picture that they're constantly painting with the thoughts that are constantly running, that you're not choosing, by the way, they just pop up. It's just programming. That you're never going to find satisfaction and peace in that, because it's just a temporary experience made of made-up words, conceptual labels that are just running, that no one's responsible for. So before the mind comes in and labels it a tree, there's just a seeing. Or before the mind comes in and labels, I am awareness, there's just being. There's just experiencing. The knowing comes later. The interpretation comes later. But is there a separate thing that knows? Is there a separate entity that actually knows? Or is there just thoughts and a concept of knowing? And so even when we get on the spiritual path, there is this subtle spiritual ego that forms. And I don't care who you are, for the most part, if you are on a spiritual path, it's very likely, and it's just normal, that an identity, a mental constructed identity will form about what one is doing on a spiritual path, right? And in many times you just replace one identity with another. So maybe you give up your human life or your material pursuited life. Material pursuited, let's just go with that. And so rather than I know how to make money or I know how to pick up women, it's I know non-duality. Or I know that I am awareness. But what is it that knows? What's here that doesn't know? What's here that doesn't know the past? What's here that doesn't know what's going to happen? What's here that doesn't know who or what they are? What's here that doesn't know anything? What if the knowing was the bondage and the not knowing was the freedom? And again, I'm not knocking knowing. I'm not saying that knowing is bad. I'm just saying that there's something here that doesn't require knowing. And it kind of feels like a safety, like a home, like a peace that you were searching for. And it doesn't have to feel like that initially for everyone. But what if the end of seeking is the end of knowing? The end of the search for something more, for the mind to chew on, that will guarantee it some kind of conceptual promise of safety in an imaginary story that we call the future. And you know, knowing is incredibly useful, right? Incredibly useful in the practical world. But the problem is that we equate knowledge about reality with reality itself, right? The menu is not the meal. The map is not the territory. The thought, I am awareness, is not awareness. So every description that the mind creates already appears in what is being described. Yeah? So any word that you give to this non-conceptual freedom that contains no actual solid identity, you can call it clarity, you can call it awakening. Inherent in that is like a separation, is a knower and a known, right? But the mind is like, it wants to pursue knowledge. That the function of thought, it's like this, there's this momentum that is constantly seeking to know. And it wants to get it, right? It wants to get it. I can't get it. How do I get it? Maybe this teacher has it. Maybe this book has it. But there's nothing to get. You know what I don't get? Matcha. I don't get it. I've honestly tried. I've tried many times. And, you know, I know that it's a popular drink. I know that people love it. But personally, I just don't get it. But matcha does not require me to get it in order for this below average drink, in my subjective opinion, to exist, right? Just like the birds, just like the flowers do not depend on me getting them in order for them to exist, nor does matcha. And I've tried some good stuff, apparently, ceremonial grade, bougie matcha. But matcha does not appear when an understanding arrives. I don't need to get it. It's just what is. Doesn't matter what my opinion is, what my conceptualization is. It's here and it's here to stay. When it comes to knowing, I really do want to emphasize a little bit more that it's not about knowing is not some bad thing. And in the same way, not knowing is not some good thing, right? I'm not posing them against each other, right? Even I don't know can become another landing point for the mind, can become another knowing. Oh, I don't know, that's it. So I need to not know. I need to let go of knowing. And maybe it can sound confusing because I just was talking all about knowing and how it has these limitations. But what we're really doing here with this inquiry, when I ask you what's here that doesn't know, is exposing a space here that's not dependent on the kind of everyday orientation that we live our lives in when we're in narrative-based thinking, searching for more knowing. So it's not in the knowing, but it's also not in the not knowing. What's here regardless if there's knowing or not knowing? What allows for both, right? What's between knowing and not knowing? Anything you say about it, the mind will want to capture it and make it into some ultimate thing when the ultimate thing is already here and it's not even a thing. It's just what is. There's only what is, regardless if there's knowing or there's not knowing. So just right now, in this very moment, take away the past and the future. Take away all your spiritual concepts right now. What's here that doesn't know? What's here that doesn't need to know? Life is already happening around you right now. Totally free, totally effortless. Effort can appear. Doesn't need to. There's the freedom for all of that. So what you're searching for on your spiritual path isn't in the knowing. It's in the seeing through of the illusion of knowing, and no longer taking the sandcastles of the narrative-based mind to be some ultimate truth. Because what you truly are never required knowledge in order to be here in the first place. It was already here. It was already free. And so rather than seeing it as an awakening, see it as a sobriety. See it as a clearing out of an intoxicating illusion that was never actually grounded in an objective reality. So many of us are just walking around in life, living in our subjective experience that is very much controlled through the programs of thought and labels. The wind, the sea, the birds, all living things are doing what they do. Yeah, it's so simple, right? It doesn't need the concepts around it. You can have concepts, that's fine, but it doesn't need them.